Are there any men wearing a skirt here today? Raise your hand. No? No one? Okay, fair enough. But I'm wondering why. There could be a number of reasons. You might think that they don't suit you, or you simply don't like them, or the potential reaction of others might be holding you back. As a man who wears skirts and other pieces of clothing that are considered to be for women only in today's Western society, that's what I have to deal with. But don't worry about me. I got used to it and I can deal with it. These people are either projecting down insecurities onto me, or they are just jealous because they can't keep up with my outfits. I feel great in my own skin and in my outfits, but that hasn't always been that way. As a child and as a young adult, I was very shy and insecure. I grew up in a homophobic and conservative environment that tried to shape me to a person that couldn't be any further from who I truly was. I tried to fit in, I tried to live up to other people's expectations, and I tried to be with a girl, even though I always knew that I'm gay. For a long time, I was miserable and unhappy, but luckily, I had my family, my friends, and eventually my boyfriend, who loved and supported me, and that's exactly what I needed to learn to accept and love myself. Fast forward to 2017, one of the most exciting and pivotal years of my life. I was in a much better place mentally and emotionally, and I had just moved to London. Looking back, I now realize that London was the place 10-year-old me had always dreamed of. I wasn't used to being surrounded by people from all over the world who seemed to get along so well. Coming from Germany, from a small city, I was much rather used to people judging others who didn't look and behave like the rest. But not in London. In a good way, people didn't care about where you came from, and they didn't care about the flamboyant outfits and makeup people wore. I also felt very safe in London because of how accepting it was of the LGBTQ+ community. I didn't have the feeling that I had to hide who I was or worry about being judged for my sexuality. Being surrounded by many queer people who live their lives openly and authentically was a huge relief for me. And it was a beautiful experience. But one of the biggest lessons I learned in London is how important following your heart and self-expression is, be it through clothes, art, or whatever medium you use. Seeing people wearing whatever they wanted and experimenting with their style encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone. I started to try things that I didn't dare to wear back in Germany. At some point, I ended up in a women's section because I got tired and bored of the men's section of high street stores, and I didn't have the funds for designer clothes back then. So I grabbed a pair of women's wear white leg trousers. I tried them on, and they looked great on me. And you know what? They didn't make me any more gay than I already was. Soon, I had to realize that people couldn't get their heads around the idea of men shopping in a women's section and wearing women's clothes because that's not manly and makes you apparently gay. I was confronted with my own prejudices because that's actually something I used to believe myself. The society I grew up in had successfully implanted this rigid idea that skirts, heels, and dresses, you name it, are only for women and not for men. Men shouldn't wear these things. I wanted to get rid of this idea and prove that it's not true. There was this amazing guy called Sanjeev who I met in London and who has an incredible personal style. One day I met him, and he was wearing heels higher than my mother's, and he was straight. The heels didn't make him any less manly nor gay, so that myth was quickly busted. I kept sharing my style and outfits on social media, and my following kept growing. But the hate and resistance was still there whenever I wore women's clothing. So I spent some time looking back at the history of men's fashion. We've probably all heard of the ancient Greeks wearing robes. Even today, in different cultures, men wear robes. In today's Western society, robes could easily be labeled as dresses. Then we have the gladiators, men who fought in pieces of clothing that resemble today's miniskirts for greater mobility, which makes sense. Scottish men today wear kilts. Indonesian men wear sarongs, pieces of clothing that are basically skirts that don't make these men any less manly nor gay. This is Louis XIV of France, also known as the Sun King, proudly posing in his beautiful heels. Did you know that men were the first to wear heels? In the 16th century, they were originally designed for men as a practical item of footwear for horseback riding to keep the rider's foot from slipping out of the stirrup. Over time, heels became a symbol of status and power. And that's probably why the Sun King is proudly posing in his heels. The way I see it, clothes evolve over time, and they might represent different things. But at the end of the day, clothes are just pieces of fabric put together that don't affect your manliness, femininity, nor sexuality. There was a time when women couldn't wear trousers. They do now, and it's not a big deal. However, research has shown that the clothes we wear can actually affect how we feel, think, and behave. This concept is called enclothed cognition. For example, research has shown that wearing specific types of clothing, such as a lab coat, associated with doctors and scientists, can enhance our cognitive performance and our attention. Similarly, wearing a business suit may make the individual feel more powerful and confident, which can affect their behavior in social situations. I think that's such an amazing insight, it makes totally sense to me. And that's actually the reason why I'm wearing 7-centimeter heels today, not to show off my status and power like the Sun King, but just to feel more confident and less nervous here on stage. I'm actually terrified of public speaking, and that's my first time doing this. Speaking in English, Speaking in English, which is obviously not my native language, makes it even more challenging for me. But I knew that wearing one of my favorite outfits and heels, which represent elegance and confidence to me, would definitely help. And it's actually working. I think the other amazing speakers here today chose their outfits based on how they would make them feel here on stage, be it consciously or subconsciously. Some of you might have picked your favorite shirt or favorite dress for today's event for similar reasons. But in our everyday lives, most of us might choose to adapt and blend in rather than stand out. Our special clothes might rarely see the daylight, like some parts of our personality, just to fit in and to avoid any unnecessary attention. Our society values uniformity over individuality. The result is a streamlined society like this monocultural spruce forest. It's man-made and designed to produce the highest possible yield of wood in the shortest possible time. It's beneficial for the few who profit from it, but not for the individual trees. Due to the lack of biodiversity, this type of forests and trees are more vulnerable to pests and diseases. I think we would all greatly benefit from a more open society that supports individuality and uniqueness. And I'm not just talking about clothes. I'm referring to the potential of each and every one of you. Imagine the power and freedom of being able to share our unique point of views and ideas while learning from each other instead of suppressing and refusing anything that deviates from the norm. Like this beautiful natural forest that benefits from its biodiversity, we could all embrace our true selves and contribute to a more diverse and healthier society. Embracing and expressing my true self has worked for me, and it made me a much happier person. Sharing it online along with my outfits while encouraging others to follow suit has become my career, and it led to this very moment. Speaking to you on a TED stage is a huge honor to me, and 10-year-old me could have never imagined to be here one day. You have seen the hate that I receive online, but luckily the love and support prevailed. Maybe this encourages you to try something new, maybe not. And again, this isn't just about clothes. It can be anything that you've always wanted to do. But I still highly recommend all men to try on a skirt at least once. Make sure it's white and roomy. The freedom for your crown jewels down there is unmatched. And the confidence that comes along with it is just a cherry on top. And just for the record, I layered these trousers underneath my skirt today to avoid any unnecessary distractions. I need you all to focus on this part. There is something unique within you that wants to be released. Don't let the negativity and opinions of others suppress it. But please, don't be a hater yourself. Remember, hating people ain't happy, and happy people ain't hating. Happiness can actually be measured by how excited you are to wake up. So go for what makes you happy and don't settle for less. I'm rooting for you. And before I leave, I want to quote one remarkable woman called Irshad Manji. Diversity. Are we going to use it to rip society apart? Or are we going to deploy it to stitch society together? Thank you.